All right, now we're going to look at the volume of a sphere. So the volume V of a sphere is V is equal to 4 over 3 pi r cubed, where r is the radius of the sphere. Now, a couple things to notice. Notice that from our coefficient of 4 with surface area, now we have a coefficient of 4/3. And the other thing to notice about this formula is notice that our r is no longer squared, our r is cubed. Because when we're talking about volume, we're talking about the three dimensions of this figure, what takes it to fill this sphere up. So that's why we have r cubed. Now, we're going to first look at the volume of a hemisphere. Now, we can think of the volume of a hemisphere. It's a little bit easier than thinking about the surface area of a hemisphere because here we're just talking about how much do we need to fill it up. So when we're taking how much we need to fill up for a hemisphere, it really is just half the volume of the sphere. So I'm going to say that the volume of the H hemisphere is equal to 1/2 the volume of the sphere. Okay, so now we need to find the volume of the sphere first. So the volume of the sphere is equal to 4/3 pi r cubed. So when we plug in our r in this situation, we have a radius of 6 meters. So 4/3 pi 6 cubed. We're leaving this in terms of pi. So in your calculator, you would say 4 divided by 3 times 6 to the third. And the volume of our sphere is 288 pi meters cubed. Because again, remember when we're talking about volume, our units are cubed. Now, we're going to go back over here and we know that the volume of our hemisphere has to be half of that. So the volume of our hemisphere is 1/2 the volume of our sphere, 288 pi. And when we take half of that, our volume is 144 pi meters cubed. Now let's look at the next one. It says find the volume of a sphere if the great circle has a circumference of 18 pi. Now remember that great circle is just kind of the circle of our sphere that goes through the center. So we know that whatever we can find for the radius of the great circle will also be the radius of our sphere. So we know that it has a circumference. We know that formula is 2 pi r. So our circumference here is 18 pi. We're going to set that equal to the 2 pi r so we can solve for the radius. Well, our pi's cancel out. We have 18 is equal to 2r. So we divide both sides by 2. So here we get that 9 is our radius. So now I know what the radius of my sphere is. I'm asked to find the volume. So now I'm going to just plug into our volume formula. 4/3 pi r cubed. So the volume is 4/3 pi times 9 cubed. We would plug in 4 divided by 3 times 9 to the third, and we would get 972 pi centimeters cubed. Now for our last example, this time it wants us to find the circumference of the sphere if its volume is approximately 8.65 inches cubed. Leave our answer in terms of pi. Now, the circumference of the sphere is basically going to be the same as the circumference of the great circle, right? Because the circumference of the sphere is the length around it at its widest point. Now, this time, we're looking for that 2 pi r, but we've been given the volume is 8.65 inches cubed. So what we need to do is we're going to plug in our volume into our volume formula, 4/3 pi r cubed, and we're going to work backwards to solve for r. So we're going to plug in our 8.65 for our v. 8.65 equals 4/3 pi r cubed. So now our only unknown here is the radius. So we need to just plug into our calculator. I don't know what 4/3 pi is, but we're going to plug it into the calculator. And when we do, we get 8.65 is equal to 4.19 r cubed. Now, to get the r by itself, first I have to get the r cubed by itself. So I'm going to divide by 4.19, both sides by 4.19. And I get 2.06 is equal to r cubed. Now, to undo a cube, we know we need to take the cube root of it. We can also do that in our calculator. You can hit the math button, and math button will give you a drop-down menu, and you'll have a cube root option. And so r is equal to 1.27. But again, we didn't need to know the r. We want to know that circumference. So circumference is equal to 2 pi r, or circumference is equal to 2 pi times 1.27. We're going to leave our answer in terms of pi, which means we're just going to multiply the 2 and the 1.7, and we get 2.54 pi inches. And again, it's just inches because it's just that one-dimensional length around the sphere. So the circumference here is 2.54 pi inches.